Hello, and welcome to the Horoscope Vault, a show that explores the world through the lens of astrology with a view to supporting you through life's ups and downs and using astrological forecasting to help you make your most confident decisions through each of life's chapters. I'm Charlie, an associate member of the American Federation of Astrologers and astrology reader for radio's The Bob and Sherry Show. This episode is for the week beginning May the 5th. And we're now in a Pluto retrograde, and this episode explains why that's not really that big of a deal. But the thing that is a big deal is how you use this next 5 months. This week is full of aspects suggesting having learnt a healthy lesson, and also some returning aspects from a prediction made last year, nearly a year ago, based on the economy of the USA. So tune in and discover how your week and the week for the general world may unfold. So Pluto retrograde is upon us. Sunday, May the 4th is or was the official start date. And I saw some social media posts about this retrograde saying things like, Pluto retrograde, nothing will ever be the same. And then there was another post that said, this Pluto retrograde, you will feel an intense pull. And I guess I'm here to say that it's not as big of a deal as it may be played up to be in social media. Sometimes aspects are pretty huge, very much so, like a planet changing sign. That happens later this month when Saturn moves into Aries towards the end of May, or in June when Jupiter moves into Cancer, which will literally make so many things much better. And there are other huge aspects, like a slow moving planet making an aspect to another slow moving planet. These happen much less frequently. And, a big one that comes to mind is Saturn when it made its conjunction to Pluto in Capricorn, which happened January of 2020. And we all know what developed on the other side of that big conjunction. And sometimes big things really do happen with these big aspects. You can kind of get the feel of how the less frequent, more potent cosmic shifts might be full of very fateful seeming developments in your life and life around us. But Pluto retrograde, it happens every year. It lasts the duration of summer. It's a very slow unfolding and generational development. Pluto's retrograde tends to be very impactful in group situations and scenarios. And that's not to say it's not personal for some people sometimes. It can be very personal for anyone who has a planet in their own natal chart around the degrees where Pluto is oscillating. And this time round, it's going to be the first few degrees of certain signs. So this Pluto retrograde is incredibly personal for any Aquarius born between January the 20th and January the 27th. And especially if you are Aquarius born January 23rd. You guys are having this retrograde just change the direction of your entire life. This is also very potent for any Taurus born between April 20th and April 28th, for any Leo born between July 23rd and July 31st, and also any Scorpio born between October 23rd to November the 1st. And what this means for those dates of those signs in brief. Aquarius, this is a change in almost the very DNA of who you are. And you may partner with someone in a way that completely changes your life. Taurus, this is a change in your future direction. This is where some dreams come to a conclusion in order for other dreams to open up. And this depends on your living location. Your living location and situation really impacts greatly what your future looks like. Leo, this is change forced upon you from external people and external situations that change you to your very core. And Scorpio, this is a change in your home and or your family life, maybe to do with the ownership of property. And it's where power struggles show up with others. If you are any of these signs, born on any of these dates, and you're going through intense change or upheaval, and you want to know how long the change will last, what the end result might look like, and why it's even happening in the first place, there is a link in the show notes below for you to explore a range of readings, anything from 20 minutes to an hour. Maybe you're ready to get some answers, gain clarity, feel more grounded in what's unfolding, and just discover how long to keep on going. There are only 5 spaces left for readings this week, so it is first come, first serve. It is helpful to understand, how long something will last, what the end result may look like, why it's happening in the first place. It's always helpful to understand at least one of those things. The duration, the reason, or the result. Being more informed leads to making more informed choices, I guess. So it's like if you're about to hit a financially tight cycle, you know not to go crazy spending on useless things. And with this retrograde lasting for 5 months, it's already more intriguing and less intimidating to be able to think of it as just a 5 month cycle. We're already 5 months into the year. That flew by. Time always does fly by, and astrology is a great tool in helping you make the best use of time by understanding it better. And understanding this Pluto retrograde requires 2 key pieces of information: the degree theme that the retrograde begins in, and the degree theme the retrograde finishes in. These combined describe the point of this whole backslide review period. And this is actually relevant to every retrograde, by the way. Any planet that goes through this retrograde motion has a start and finish point and degree. When you combine the meaning of the degree symbolism of them both, it makes up the whole experience. So for this pattern, Sunday, May 4th, the Pluto retrograde in Aquarius begins in the degree of caution. Its message is about caring for others, which is the very Aquarius humanity focus, but the care must be applied with realistic limits, keeping an eye on what is practical. This is a restrained, self protective version of compassion, which in its best form shows up as caring about others, but still being cautious about overextending yourself. So focus on processing and managing your own emotional energy rather than taking on others' emotions. Be very aware of when you may be in the presence of an emotionally volatile situation or person, and help people help out only when it's safe and sustainable for you to do so, not offering help just any time it's requested. So that's the beginning. The end of the Pluto retrograde finishes at 1 degree of Aquarius on October 14th. The theme is restraint, discipline, and limits, especially emotional and behavioral ones. This degree points out your ability or inability to bend and adapt. It's about sticking to the rules, but in a way that's thoughtful and not too intense, versus following the rules even if it results in suffering. So the opening theme is caution on May the 4th, combining self-protection and compassion. The closing theme is about adapting and doing your best by both the rules of something and yourself. And the instability of potentially getting this retrograde wrong is in giving too much of yourself, even when it costs you. The thing to watch out for is emotional generosity or any kind of generosity that lacks boundaries. Following that is an easy and quick path to burnout and regret. So you've got 5 months of witnessing and learning where your energy actually goes, looking at who does and doesn't return it and what actually drains it dry. And this is not about shutting down, it's about staying open, but also remaining wise. You keep your softness within you and you sharpen your boundaries. And those Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio people who are kind of having a more intense time of this, who are about to really understand a lot about energetic exchange, about give and take, about self preservation over the next 5 months. There are also a few signs that kind of experience this cycle in a positively disruptive way. If you're one of these signs, it's going to shake things around and life will be better for you. So it's just about going along for the bumpy ride and making sure that you pay attention. It's not the time to coast. It's definitely not the time to get too comfortable, because there's real potential for you to miss out on something life altering if you're too busy enjoying the moment and not moving forward. So for Gemini, Libra, Sagittarius, and Aries, life is lining up, but you still have to move to keep the momentum going. Take bold steps towards your goals, make the call, send the pitch, start the thing. This isn't just chaos, it's opportunity disguised as disruption. Overall, for every single sign on the wheel, use the next 5 months to notice who uplifts you and what wears you down, to stay emotionally present and on the lookout for opportunity, even if it's disguised as discomfort. And when reading astrology for the point of forecasts and preparation, when reading this stuff, the planets always show what is happening. The sign is what shows how it's happening. And the house placement shows where it is happening. So this Pluto retrograde tells us that there is a pause in transformation of how society interacts and cares for one another. It's changing and modernizing towards a bit more of a healthy detachment, which can appear a little bit rebellious. And where this healthy transformative detachment is happening, it depends on your sign. So there is an episode coming out today or tomorrow detailing the meaning per sign. That's for exclusive subscribers to the more detailed content on the Horoscope Vault. The link to join that is below. Moving on to May 5th, Mercury in Aries sextiles Jupiter in Gemini at 22 degrees of their respective signs. The 22nd degree in astrology is called the kill or be killed degree. Just taking a moment's pause for how dramatic that can sound and can appear. Lots of people actually get incredibly frightened by that sentiment. But the 22nd degree, kill or be killed, simply means there can only be one winner. Doesn't have to mean death or ending or penalties or anything crazy or scary. It's just that only one thing can succeed. And that is thing or person. Thing is relevant if you're talking about two options, two ideas, two character traits going head to head. And within this particular Mercury Jupiter aspect, the Mercury theme is about how you spot and respond to trends. This is about whether you jump in on trend or if you pull away. The Jupiter theme, the degree theme, is about how society relates to those people who don't quite fit into the current trends. And the sextile is about seeing what's happening. It's about observing what's going on and then either riding the wave or deciding against joining the crowd, even if it's clearly moving forward. So at best, you recognize what is popular, what's evolving, what is happening, and you use it to grow. At the worst, you avoid change and miss out on an opportunity. Monday the 5th is the chance to do something differently. It's the chance to take something that is happening, to take something that's going on, going around, some theme, some buzz, to catch it, to surf it, and to use it to evolve yourself. And the simple case is, if you don't, then you just might miss out on something small, sweet, and enjoyable. On May 6th, Venus in Aries sextile Pluto, now retrograde in Aquarius, happens at 3 degrees. The Venus theme is about making a mistake and learning a very healthy lesson from it. The Pluto retrograde theme is still the same as mentioned earlier, because it's now retrograde, it's moving very slowly, it always moves slowly. This theme is about acting with caution when dealing with others and their needs and not overextending yourself. Blended together in a sextile, which is a positive, supportive connection, these meanings, this symbolism, combines in a way that encourages growth through mistakes while also ensuring that you are careful with how you interact with others. This kind of gives me the theme of being burned once before and either preventing that from happening again or being aware if it's, in the process of happening again. The lesson here is to act boldly as soon as you see a repeating pattern, but to act with an awareness of the consequences. This is knowing when to learn from your past mistakes and how to protect your own emotional well-being. You can still take risks. You can still take risks and make mistakes, but do so with care and awareness of the bigger picture. Learning from each past experience and using that to engage with others more wisely. So, for example, impulsively jumping into a relationship driven by passion and excitement, and then later realizing that you rushed into things. Reflecting on this in the present and the future, you'll maybe learn to take a step back to move more cautiously in any upcoming connections. Or maybe this is to do with taking a bold approach to a new project. Perhaps you did that in the past and things did not go as planned. You realize you need to be more careful in future decisions before jumping into things. And that way you can still keep your drive and ambition, but now you make more thoughtful choices. There is some kind of quick, bold move, maybe a few missteps. And in the past, it wound up teaching you a lesson, which you now use to act with more caution and awareness while staying true to yourself. The next date this week is May 9th, and this is not an assessment of an aspect happening on this date in the general chart. You can't pull up a chart of the day and see what this is because I'm assessing a point in the chart of the United States. So every year I do a birthday reading for America, July 4th being the birthday, and birthday charts work so well for humans. They give me these pointed dates that are just mind-blowing. Pretty much everybody comes back and says that something happened on these dates that this birthday chart suggested. So I began to experiment with whether or not this would work for events and places too. So I've been doing the USA birthday reading for the last few years, and after a couple of on-point predictions in the past, plus a few interesting pivotal dates, I've decided to keep up with these forecasts. For example, in last year's July 4th episode, it was mentioned something big happening July 13th, which wound up being the attempted assassination of the now president. But what I find personally a little bit more interesting than that is the mention of a trade war. July 4th of 2024, I was talking about a trade war getting a little bit unruly, and I specifically called Canada on this one, which happened to be what we are seeing unfold with all of this tariff stuff. Only here's the thing, in the reading it showed that the dates for some serious developments with this trade war tariff situation was May 9th. Also May 16th too. Now May 9th is this Friday. So I guess mentioning it in this episode is me planting the seed for you to be extra mindful of the economic news on Friday. Because it seems like something to do with the trade war, the tariff stuff may show up, some kind of an agreement or further disagreement. And there might be some quarrels, some developments, also in education funding discussions. And yeah, mainly I would say that this tariff stuff might pop back up again. The final mention this week is May 10th, Mercury into Taurus. Slow down your decisions, slow them all the way down for the entire duration of this planet sign combination, which is going to be from May 10th to around May 26th. During that time, make sure that you take a minimum of 2 days to make a decision, especially anything that's important, anything that has a long term focus to it. The specific area of where in your chart you could benefit from slowing down and taking some steady thinking does depend on your sign. And so, to recap this week, in a nutshell, it's about only giving if it doesn't compromise your position. It's about recognizing what's evolving in humanity and using that to your benefit to grow. It's about using past mistakes to ensure that you are careful with how you interact with others going forward. And it's about making sure to take at least 2 days to make your most important decisions. Each horoscope is timestamped below for your convenience. And if you can, make sure to listen to your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign horoscopes. This combination will give you the most pointed, detailed reading. This week for Aries, you may find yourself confronting shifts in group dynamics or with a financial entanglement. So, a friend or maybe even an organization that you're involved with may reveal some troubling financial issues, perhaps a scandal or a mismanagement of resources. There's also the potential that if you've been counting on money from somewhere coming to you, it might be delayed or it might come back as being under review. Perhaps there's someone in your network that is facing tax problems, inheritance disputes, or significant debt, and somehow their challenges impact you almost indirectly. There's this possibility of strained trust among friends or among team members and colleagues. Maybe a person you once considered reliable pulls back, acting evasive. Maybe there's some hidden power plays that come to light. And these revelations push you to reassess your role in long term collaborations, especially those that involve any kind of financial matter. And in some cases, groups that you are part of begin to break apart or they begin to restructure thanks to some uneven trust or control. Or additionally, you become aware of an ongoing background check or audit or some kind of private investigation involving a group or individual that you are part of or is close to you. Amid all of this, a conversation or message this week brings you a wave of optimism and reconnection. You might receive the green light about a travel plan, a legal document, or a kind of an educational academic pursuit that you've been waiting on. Encouraging news could arrive through an email, a letter, or casual conversation, where a previous rejection or misunderstanding related to the matter is cleared up, opening a door that had once been closed. Transportation tools or technological devices like a car, computer, or a phone become valuable this week, assisting you in telling a story, advancing your story, or absorbing new information. And overall, you're being called to look closer at how money and influence show up in your friendships and how that is part of your self preservation. A gift or an offer from a friend or group may carry more strings attached to it than it first appears. So definitely be mindful there. and any temptation to invest in your appearance or your reputation. As long as it's for the fun of what you want to do is great. Make sure it's not connected to matters of misplaced loyalty, control, or unspoken obligations. A shift in a friendship triggers reflection on what and who you truly value. This is a week to quietly revise past missteps around money and social power, and take subtle but deliberate steps to reclaim your voice, your clarity, and authority. And make sure to listen to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. Taurus, this week there may be a subtle shift in how you relate to your future. As wide as that sounds, it's anything that has power and authority over where you are going. So, a boss, a manager, it could even be matters of the government, changes in statements and vagueness about policies, especially those that impact financial responsibilities. With all these things going on behind the scenes, you might begin to reassess your ambitions and how comfortable you are with these changes, these powers, these authorities, and these policies. There's something you've been pushing for professionally that now you may hesitate on. You wonder if it would compromise your sense of privacy, stability, maybe it would compromise your boundaries if you actually achieved what you thought you wanted. And now there are power struggles in your workplace, either literally or through yourself. As you become more attuned to the manipulation and unspoken hierarchies that exist in the world. So you quietly review practical matters like your taxes, your insurance, your estate planning, and anything that is tied to the success of your career, business, or any kind of work that you do. And now a previous idea or insight that you kind of shelved resurfaces, you bring it back off the shelf because it has surprising financial potential. Try think back to something that you had considered a failed project, a forgotten idea, or an abandoned plan. Now it brings you a valuable opportunity, especially if it involves any kind of writing, any kind of teaching, or analytical skills. Having a private conversation or just your own internal reflection leads you to discover a new way to bring in income and to restructure how you manage resources. And you may receive good information, good news, positive news, or support even from an unexpected source. Maybe a spiritual, anonymous, or confidential channel that brings you financial strength. Conversations about money, contracts, and taxes could also be happening behind closed doors, and it's worth paying attention to any patterns that may reappear there. If you are experiencing something on repeat that is stressful that you've been through before, then this might signal something worth revisiting. There's a tension between what you desire privately and how that aligns with your professional future. You might even begin to question a professional relationship or reconsider involvement with someone professionally. And if not professional, it may be romantic, financial, or contractual in some other way. It's worth asking yourself if the situation is as mutual or as safe as it appears, because you might be tempted to make a financial decision, anything from taking out a loan, making an investment, spending your money. And it's good to make sure that your hunches agree with this, that it feels right, before you disclose your plans to others. Because if it's done impulsively, it could expose you to future complications. Trust your instinct as you're going through a very definitive reversal. And this is a reversal that could be very positive. It's a change, a shift in your future and your career. And if you're really trying to kind of grasp the changes, the potentials, and the possibilities, this stuff shows up in your private chart. The 10th house of any astrological natal chart shows the themes and the styles of a person's career potential. It shows what you can do in a very easy way to generate money, to generate success, to feel fulfilled. It also shows you the hurdles and the obstacles along the way. And if you want to be prepared for the hurdles and the obstacles, if you know you're on the right path, and you just want to prevent, anything kind of crazy happening, consider a reading during this Pluto retrograde. It could be incredibly helpful for you to know what you may need to circumvent or plan ahead to deal with. Click the link below. We will get together and find out a ream of dates that are worth your attention in the future. And of course, listen to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. This week for Gemini, you find yourself pulling inward to question the bigger picture aspects of your life, like your beliefs, your ideals, or even an educational path. Turning the lens inward is looking at what you used to take as truth, because now it might feel shaky, and you might begin quietly reevaluating what you think of the world. Something that once felt like it was expansive, like a spiritual path, an international goal, some kind of study, might now feel too risky or too unstable to build upon. You're called to reassess what knowledge or teachings are truly aligned with your long term growth. And if you've experienced past instability from moving too quickly into unfamiliar ideas, then this period helps you course correct. Trust that any discomfort serves a deeper purpose in you reclaiming your personal truth. Conversations this week become gateways for healing and opportunity, bringing a rush of insight and open doors in your social world. You may reconnect with a friend or group or revive an old idea that now gains traction. Past miscommunications, past misunderstandings now suddenly make sense. And something that once felt like rejection opens you up into genuine support. Your presence in a group dynamic carries weight. You may serve as a connector, someone sharing trends, someone offering clarity where confusion currently is. So pay attention to invitations from others or kind of reappearances of people showing up time and time again. There's something about the seeds that you plant in a community situation that quickly grow into something meaningful. And there's an opportunity to transform how you approach love, friendship, or shared creative goals, especially those that rest on common grounds. This week brings depth to life that has seemed casual thus far, and a friendship could evolve into something more profound, or a group project taps into something unspoken. But there is also a cautionary moment. You may be drawn to someone or something because of its intensity or because of their allure. But take a second to think before leaping in. If the vibe feels too good to be true, there may actually be a hidden agenda or a power imbalance at play. So trust your instincts with people, don't ignore red flags. And if tension does arise within a friend group, an online community, or a team setting, then your words are responsible for bringing healing. Or at least you can offer some kind of insight into what's really going on beneath the surface. You may be facing this personal challenge of navigating how much you share in a group setting, especially of your personal life. Don't underestimate your ability to shift the tone and reframe a story just by speaking up and saying what others are afraid to say. And you can get more from your reading this week by listening to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. If you don't know what they are, use the calculator in the show notes below to find out. This week for Cancer, something in a professional relationship may not feel quite right. And you can find yourself questioning a direction, a collaboration, a responsibility that once seemed pretty solid, but now it feels kind of murky, maybe even one-sided. If you've been giving more than you're getting, whether it's ideas or effort or just your energy, then this is the week to start pulling back. A quiet tension with a colleague or some kind of partnership might finally come to the surface, and it reveals a deeper imbalance. You might also feel the need to protect your privacy more at work, choosing to keep certain thoughts or strategies and things to yourself for now. This is a great week to reflect on where your power goes and whether you're ready to reclaim some of it. That's pretty important as the general time shows a shift in your career or in your industry. And it's something subtle, but something significant. It's a season change. It's a new idea. It's a trend that might catch your attention. It gives you the chance to suggest something bold at work or to make a bold move if you are pursuing something. Like maybe there's an old project that didn't work out before. Either you didn't give it adequate time or you tried and at the first hurdle decided to stop pursuing it. Well, this project might be relevant again, and you may actually see why you misunderstood it or something went awry the first time round. Pick one day this week to take an early morning walk alone. It must be early in the morning, or what is early for you. This helps you map out the next few months in your head. Inspiration comes from a place where you are alone, hidden, or something unexpected. So go for a walk or rifle through your private messages. Read the things that you have spoken with others in passing, because something brings you a flash of insight. Be careful not to overlook the fine print in anything this week, whether it's professional, any kind of contractual stuff. You might feel pulled towards an opportunity that's very exciting on the surface, maybe some kind of collaboration, but there's something going on underneath. And it might be that someone in a position of power is holding back some key details, or there are some emotional or financial strings attached. And if you're making any decisions around money or your career, take your time. 2 days minimum to make a decision. Avoid rushing into something just because it feels flattering or just because it feels urgent. This is a week or next few weeks to protect what you've built, to protect what you think and feel, and make sure that you're not giving away too much, even unintentionally. Giving yourself that space, you'll start to spot shifts or trends in your career or industry. You'll feel inspired, a new strategy, an old idea. Something rejected makes more sense. There's also a chance that a quiet moment of reflection leads to a breakthrough. So double down on making sure you go for that early morning walk this week. Give yourself a chance to reignite a passion and to think about how that looks. In terms of your career and public image, a new opportunity arises, especially involving collaboration, potentially involving influential people. Still, as exciting as that is, do not rush into decisions, especially those that have financial implications. Be careful about making bold choices without considering the long-term impact. In your workplace, you may fill in a gap this week. Your skills become a tool for bridging a gap where you do something someone else can't. You cover, you take over, you act as a mediator in a conflict, or you just offer advice from your experience, and your wisdom helps resolve tension. It brings clarity to a difficult situation. And whether you're working in a community situation or on, a small group unit initiative, it's your grounded, thoughtful approach that is appreciated. And be sure to make the most out of your reading this week. Listen to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. If you don't know what those are, use the calculator below to find out. This week for Leo, a deep reevaluation of your close relationships begins. This is with focus on power dynamics, focus on trust, that's a big thing, and matters of control as well. So you find yourself reflecting on times where you've compromised your own needs, whether in a business partnership or a personal relationship. And it leads you to recognize a need for more equality in some of your connections. It prompts you to speak up and renegotiate an agreement that doesn't feel balanced anymore, or maybe even pulling back from a commitment, again, whether it's romantic or business, as you take time to reflect on what you truly want moving forward. Some old fears around betrayal might resurface, reminding you of past hurts, especially if you're considering trusting someone again. This week encourages you to observe subtle shifts in how you handle conflict, maybe taking a more silent and observational approach before reacting. Some legal matters or contract issues may reappear, anything from like a prenup or some kind of agreement, or maybe even like an agreement you forgot about. That's possible too. And it requires revision or a second look. There may also be realizations around family-rooted patterns in relationships. Perhaps you begin to see how your fear of conflict comes from growing up in an environment where, conflict was just avoided at all costs. A conversation could bring new clarity about how your upbringing shaped your values, particularly around open communication in relationships. And in terms of relationships, you could be drawn to someone who challenges your beliefs or your worldview, particularly in areas of love, learning, and spirituality. There's a chance that a romantic or financial decision may stem from insecurity, something like booking an expensive trip to impress someone. And you may find yourself repeating a past mistake in love or in education, like overcommitting to a person or a project. But this time you can see it clearly as it's happening. This is a powerful time for personal healing and growth through conversations about your beliefs and about your past hurts. Sharing your experiences will bring you a sense of relief. You might even find yourself helping others heal by offering advice or sharing your own healing journey. As your thinking shifts towards your career, you'll begin to adopt a more grounded, practical approach. Planning for the long-term goals, mapping out your strategy for the next year to year and a half, looking at a clear and steady timeline. And as your mind sharpens, this is a great time to revisit creative ideas, maybe some that you once dismissed. And you might discover that an old project, whether it's a book, a pitch, just an idea, it holds more potential than you originally thought. And a conversation with a friend or colleague introduces a new perspective that shifts your thinking or opens your mind to new possibilities. You might find yourself being recognized for your consistent, thoughtful work rather than flashy, quick results. So this is a time where you rethink your career direction, your public voice, your presence, and evaluate whether your current path aligns with your deeper values. And if there is this whole dynamic of somebody impacting your career or changes in your identity and life direction based on interaction with someone else, this shows up in your natal chart. This is seen in the 7th house, the 5th house, and the 10th house, a combination of those, and looking at the rulers of each of those houses and where they are posited in the rest of the chart. If that's something you can do yourself, take a look this week and see what more insight you can gain from looking at your chart. And if that's not something you can do yourself, consider joining the Patreon subscription. I'll be releasing episodes where you can learn how to dissect your natal chart all on your own. So anytime you hit a situation, you can search for the answers yourself. And if you don't really have the time for that, there is a link in the show notes below where we can do that during a session, arming you with dates ahead of time, looking at the future for you to prevent, perfect, and make the most of opportunities ahead. And make sure to listen to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. If you don't know what those are, use the calculator below to find out. This week for Virgo, a time of introspection around your daily routines and health practices begins. You're invited to reevaluate how you've been approaching your responsibilities. Have you been holding on to habits because they feel comfortable? Or are your habits genuinely serving your long-term well-being? This is a time for pause in a quick transformation, and instead looking at how you manage your work-life balance and how you take care of your health. This is a stop check moment, and in that stop check moment you might realize that certain methods need updating and some may even need letting go of altogether. And this includes being drawn to reassessing your financial and intimate relationships too. There is potential for transformation in how you handle shared resources within partnerships. Be cautious about making any hasty decisions, especially in investments, because there might be some tension between maintaining security and taking a risk for growth in your professional life. A very careful, very calculated approach strengthens your role in a collaborative venture, and it leads you to new success. This is an excellent week for personal growth and being open to overcoming any personal wounds that have yet to heal. Your thinking turns more practical, more grounded. You find yourself focused on tangible results, especially in career and education. And your approach to just about anything and everything becomes more methodical. You are looking at long-term goals. And within that, you begin to seek more practical application of your knowledge, finding new ways to use your intellect in a meaningful way in your daily life. There might be a shift in your relationships with co-workers or supervisors, prompting you to take a look at any power dynamics that might be kind of directly or indirectly holding you back. Look for trends in your professional life and look for trends in your investments. Your ability to spot patterns might help you reach this like breakthrough point. It might lead to some breakthrough in communication, in marketing, in investing. And you might revisit a prior investment or past decision with fresh insight. And it reveals an opportunity that you had missed before. This week is really heavy on the self-reflection, especially past creative projects and past romantic relationships. It's an opportunity to look back and maybe rebuild something that was once thought to be lost or outdated. For example, an old hobby that once brought you joy can be reignited, allowing you to rediscover a passion that had kind of faded away. And if it's in matters of love, you find yourself reflecting on previous relationships, understanding where growth is needed and what lessons remain. And if an old relationship comes to mind while you're listening to this, you might realize that there is an unresolved issue that still needs to be addressed before you're able to move forward in a healthy way. Where patterns in your past relationships, you want those patterns changed before you move forward. You don't want those patterns repeating. So it's a week of tons of breakthrough, breaking through creative blocks, uncovering emotional wounds, and limiting beliefs that have held you back. It's the perfect time to clear out anything that adds to mental blocks and find the courage to finally tackle either a long, dormant creative project or an old hobby that you had totally ignored. It's also a great week to revisit past conversations and misunderstandings, clearing the air and allowing for a fresh start. Maybe there's a lingering disagreement that you've had with someone for a while, and with a fresh perspective, tending to that this week could lead to renewed trust. And make sure to get more from your reading, a good, well-rounded reading, by listening to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. If you don't know what those are, use the calculator below to find out. This week for Libra encourages introspection around past creative endeavors and romantic experiences. So it's time to revisit what once inspired you, projects or passions that you left behind, something you set aside, like a half finished piece of writing or an old creative idea, maybe some old social media work. It suddenly calls you back with a renewed sense of purpose. And it's a week to revisit hobbies that light you up, reconnecting with part of yourself that you've outgrown. Maybe a change in hobby is necessary. Doing the same thing and not feeling as fulfilled means that you've evolved. And so as you evolve in your recreational life, your hobbies and the things that excite you, it's easy to not make the changes necessary to stick to what is known at the risk of losing a new spark. In your personal relationships, you find yourself re-examining past romances with new eyes, and some memories might resurface. Some old romantic memories, helping you reflect on where you've grown, but also where you still may be healing. And if there's a past relationship lingering on your mind, it points to unfinished emotional business or some patterns that you're now ready to recognize and break. This is a time of reshaping your view of love, redefining what intimacy means to you. And creatively, this week is a breakthrough period where emotional barriers that stood in your way begin to dissolve. There's clarity and readiness to pursue something that once you might have felt a little bit too overwhelmed to pursue. And this week, talking things through with someone from your inner circle, like a real BFF, helps you and them understand each other more fully, leading to a strengthened relationship. This is actually a favorable week to have conversations for a second time round, to revisit conversations that didn't land well the first time, whether an old argument or a missed opportunity to express yourself. But ultimately, the week invites you to reflect on your emotional history and look at how it shapes your current relationships. You're able to break old cycles and step into a more balanced, emotionally fulfilling connection. If an old relationship comes back, you may come to see past experiences not as mistakes, but more so as essential lessons that guide you towards healthier love moving forward. And if the love or the creative project, if the romance or the kind of genius creative work are way too confusing, then clarity can be found in your natal chart. Any trine aspects happening by transit or natally in your chart to the areas of house 5, house 6, and house 7, maybe even house 8 as well. These will show you the key that unlocks the easiest ride to fulfillment you'll ever have. And any square happening in or around those same houses will show you the hurdles and obstacles in your way. You can figure these out. One basically solves the other. And if looking at trines, transits, and squares is not your thing just yet, then you may want to sign up to the Horoscope Vault on Patreon. I'll be releasing educational episodes on the regular to help you learn to do all of this with your own natal chart. And if that sounds cool and you're going to go ahead and do that, but you still want some answers now, there is a link in the show notes below where we can book a reading. A reading can be anything from 20 minutes to an hour plus. 20 minutes is usually a great introduction just to get your feet wet to help you understand what astrology can even do for you. And with only 5 sessions available left this week, you're going to want to click on that link below and get yourself booked in. Also, listen to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. This will give you a well-rounded outlook for the week. This week for Scorpio, emotional power struggles within the home and family surface. If it's not home and family, it's to do with some kind of a home property situation, and it urges you to reevaluate the dynamics at play. You may desire to distance yourself from a controlling family member, but you find yourself conflicted due to guilt or very long held traditional fears. And there's a tug of war between personal needs and family expectations that highlight unresolved emotional patterns that require immediate attention. Or this might simply be disagreements about the home property or a property that you are somehow involved in. You take an introspective review of how family conditioning has influenced your approach to love, control, independence, and you might even realize that when conflicts arise in your relationships, you instinctively mimic a parent's emotional withdrawal or a parent's way of handling things, a behavior that could be sabotaging your connections. Recognizing this pattern opens the door for growth. You confront these emotional habits and you make the conscious choice to act differently, especially if a fear of vulnerability or losing control is causing hesitation in deepening a romantic bond. For example, if the idea of moving in with your partner approaches, or something getting serious, then an unexpected desire to retreat and to isolate stalls your plans and it leaves you feeling uncertain about taking the next step. And these moments are uncomfortable, but they do offer an opportunity to face deeper emotional fears and move forward with self-awareness. At the same time, you feel a pull towards emotional self-preservation, opting to withdraw rather than engage in any challenging conversations. And you might actually cancel a meeting, a date, a conversation, or some kind of heart to heart with someone just to protect your peace. But then you realize that this avoidance only creates more distance between you and other. Confronting these tendencies head on help you break free from limiting emotional cycles. It helps you foster more genuine, open connections. And as the week progresses, clarity does emerge around past misunderstandings in some kind of intimate or financial partnership, where you finally understand what the other person was trying to communicate during a previous disagreement that was maybe about money. You may find that your tendency to over-explain stems from a fear of being misunderstood. And calling yourself out on this leads to a healthier way of communicating. It allows you to express your thoughts more effectively without the need for overcompensation. As a result, communication improves, especially around sensitive topics like trust, sex, and emotional investments. By expressing yourself honestly, you create a more open connection with someone else, which is super important if you are moving forward on a previous idea or decision about merging finances with a partner. Realizing that a past judgment wasn't as you thought it was. This reevaluation leads to stronger, more informed decisions moving forward, as well as the recognition of patterns tied to your early childhood experiences, especially related to caretaking or survival strategies. Like, you might notice that your compulsion to fix your problems and other people's problems mirrors how you may have needed to earn affection as a child. And these realizations offer clarity on the motivations behind your actions. It helps you make more conscious choices in love. So, healing conversations and advice you offer may focus on self improvement and work habits. Over the next few days, you may help resolve misunderstandings in all kinds of relationships, not just personal, but also in your work environments. You may step in and help a friend, a colleague, someone resolve a conflict because you see both sides of the issue objectively. You just somehow facilitate a solution for someone else that benefits them. You have this skill for bringing people together, and it extends from your personal relationships to your professional ones. So, healing conversations and advice that you offer may focus on self improvement and work habits, where you advise someone on improving their work life balance, leading them to feel more centered and fulfilled. And this in turn contributes to your own emotional growth. So, this week is increased attention to resolving misunderstandings that have been brewing or that have been left alone. You decide to finally address a long standing matter that has been ignored or swept under the rug. And it's an opportunity to clear the air and gain deep understanding and emotional clarity within your close relation. And with this Pluto retrograde impacting you from the most personal position, from the fourth house, your home life, it's worth taking a look at your chart and checking for obstacles coming up. This next 5 months are imperative for you to understand yourself inside out. But not just understand yourself, you might even have that, figured out. It's about understanding how home, personal relationships, the childhood, the habits, just your emotional rhythm, understanding how all of that impacts your life going forward. And over the next 5 months, some pivotal points show up. You want to take a look at your fourth house in your natal chart. Any planets transit through it, planets ruling this house, and where they are posited. And if you don't know how to do that, then take a look at the link in the show notes below. I'll be releasing some episodes on how to read all of this in your own natal chart, how to kind of read your own astrological forecast. And if you're ready to sign up, but you still want answers now, there's also a link to book a reading where we can check out the next 5 months of what to avoid and what to go heavy into. And get a more well-rounded reading for this week by listening to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. This week for Sagittarius, there's heavy reflection on how you communicate. You may desire deeper, more meaningful exchanges with others. And there might be a conversation with someone that prompts you to reconsider a past misunderstanding. Maybe this is a conversation with a family member or a friend. It makes you rethink your approach to future discussions, how you use words, how you receive words. You might start to feel more cautious about how you express yourself, really thinking about choosing your words carefully to avoid unnecessary conflict. And it's looking at how past conversations have escalated into past mistakes that can help you adjust your method of communication, especially in intellectual or social situations. Like after revisiting or re-going over, when you go back over a past argument and you realize that maybe a more reserved or thoughtful approach could have led to a better outcome. This introspection guides you to be more intentional in how you speak and to foster better connections with those around you. And for a moment, this can feel personal and kind of upsetting, and you feel a strong pull to keep your ideas to yourself. You resist the urge to share anything. You get that feeling, oh, it's better if I say nothing at all. You feel like you expose your thoughts too easily. And that feels vulnerable until you're certain of the value of those thoughts. And if you're unsure of how your words and your thoughts are received, whether it's going to be understood by others, it creates this internal conflict between wanting to contribute, wanting to share, and holding back because of self-doubt. But it is a conversation with someone you are close with this week that reveals a recurring dynamic in your interactions that you had never noticed before. This realization is helpful. It helps you communicate more consciously, and it helps you avoid repeating mistakes in future relationships. This is also a good week to make creative decisions that align with your personal growth and ambitions, especially working in collaboration with someone else. So a brainstorming session with a creative project in mind sparks new ideas that leads to the project benefiting everybody involved. And as you build confidence in your mind and your words, a disagreement with a friend might finally be cleared up when you both realize that a previous conflict was just based on a simple misinterpretation. This newfound kind of clarity in communication helps you rebuild trust in your relationships. And it opens the door for you to express your emotions more creatively. And this leads to more realizations about past naivety or mistakes in creative projects, like something you thought would be really easy to do. Oh, this project is going to be so easy to do. It's going to be effortless. And then it reveals hidden challenges that require more attention. A lot of realization around understanding the complexities involved in pretty much everything in life. All of these insights this week lead to transformative, cathartic shifts in your perspective. And in the days ahead, you might feel compelled to communicate some difficult truths, to offer some advice that encourages someone else to grow from their struggles based on how you feel about overcoming yours. So a situation arises where you provide some constructive feedback to a colleague or a friend in a way that challenges them to rethink their approach, but it does so in a supportive and non-judgmental manner. This type of communication fosters the deepest connections, and it helps everybody around you grow. Mercury's shift into Taurus finds you organizing your routine, improving the structure of your work environment, and looking for increased productivity. So implement new strategies to streamline your daily tasks. Make your work life more efficient and manageable. And find mental clarity regarding your health and wellness routine. This is emphasized during this week. The focus is on making health and wellness sustainable. So this is looking at long-term changes that you will keep up. It's a good week to commit to a new exercise or dietary plan, but do so with a steady, realistic approach that makes sure that you stick with it. And the focus on practicality helps you achieve your wellness goals without feeling overwhelmed. And if you are finding that your words sometimes don't land as intended, this is something that is written in your chart. You would check the third house of your natal chart, the ninth house of your natal chart, the planets in them natally, planets ruling them, the signs that they are in, and where all of those rulerships sit in the rest of the chart. You would also look for transits to this place too. And if all of that just sounded like crazy jargon, you might want to sign up to the Horoscope Vault on Patreon, where I will be releasing some educational episodes that help you read your chart the way I do. And if that's on your radar and you are patiently waiting for those episodes, then thank you. But if you are too impatient for the answers and you want to book a reading to discover kind of the obstacles to your communication and the benefits and talents that you also have there, then click the link in the show notes below, book a date and time, and we can do that. Get the most out of the reading this week by listening to the reading for your moon and rising sign too, if you don't know what those are. Use the calculator below to find out. This week for Capricorn is a time to reconsider how you approach financial security. It prompts you to reflect on your earnings and your saving habits, and you find yourself revisiting past purchases or investments, evaluating if they align with your long-term goals. This reflection leads to adjusting your spending habits to support your future better. And you may feel resistant to making drastic changes to your finances. You prefer a more cautious approach in order to avoid unnecessary risks. Like maybe you decide to delay a big purchase or avoid investments that feel too uncertain, and instead you opt for a safer, more stable choice. This week is reassessment of your financial strategies, taking steps to strengthen your long-term security. And it's the perfect time to explore ways to optimize your savings and restructure your budget. Communication at home becomes clearer, allows you to better understand family dynamics. A conversation with a family member reveals a misunderstanding from the past, and it offers a chance to resolve this once and for all. Doing so will strengthen your relationship, and it's also an opportunity to adjust routines at home. You know, who does what, especially if you feel previous strategies are not that effective. You could reorganize your schedule. You could find more efficient ways to balance home responsibilities. And maybe there's a few points where emotional needs regarding home and family life begin to clash with financial priorities. This clearly shows a need for a more balanced approach. Maybe you feel the urge to spend money on a home improvement or a personal desire, but you're then prompted to reassess your priorities in light of changes in your financial situation. This is a time to reflect on your sense of security and how it's tied to your emotional environment. If you do find yourself mediating a discussion this week, it helps to clear up a misunderstanding and heal a wound. A conversation about family issues leads to a breakthrough, and it's your insights that bring connections closer. And instead of making impulsive decisions in investments and hobbies, you may do well to plan carefully and take a patient, methodical approach, at least for the month of May. It's a great time to focus on those things, the personal projects and the investments, especially if they involve creativity. You feel more inclined to kind of express yourself in thoughtful ways, to opt for investments that align with your hunches, but still make sure to take that 2-day minimum decision time. And if there's a particular investment that comes to mind or some kind of project that you are starting, this is all visible in your natal chart. The success or lack of success of a project, the success or lack of success of an investment, this all shows up based on your natal astrology wheel. So you would look at the fifth house. The sign your fifth house is in, planets transit through that fifth house. The sign the fifth house is in, the ruler of the fifth house, and where that is posited in the rest of the chart. Any aspects to the fifth house, any aspects to the ruler, any transits through in real time, or any tenants in that house natally. And if all that sounds like I just spoke in a completely foreign language, you might want to join the Patreon over on Horoscope Vault, where I will be releasing some educational content. I would like to help you learn to read your natal chart the way I do, so you have the power of that tool at your disposal. And if you're cool with that, but you still want some quicker answers, then there's also a link in the show notes below to book a reading. We can go through the investments, the timing of investments, and how they may or may not work for you. And to get more just from this general week's reading, listen to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. If you don't know what those are, use the calculator below to find out. This week for Aquarius, you hesitate to make personal changes like updating your style or embarking on a new look or just doing things for you. And you hesitate out of concern for not just how it will be received by others, but how it will change the possibility of your future. So this week is about delays, where you delay bold decisions, especially related to career or personal life. And a new opportunity or promotion might feel a little bit too different from your current career path, and that makes you feel uneasy. You may also feel a pull to reassess your identity, but it's best to take a step back from making any major changes to your kind of personal brand, your personal life, or your life direction. It's best to stay in a comfort zone for the time being, for at least this next 5 months. Instead, it is a great idea to recognize patterns. There is a habit pattern on replay in your life, and it is the main culprit for any feeling of lack of power in your future. Gaining clarity in this very pattern or behavioral habit will change your opportunities, and past ideas and past opportunities that you once dismissed suddenly make more sense. They become worth revisiting, and you find that something that once felt irrelevant is now better aligned with who you are in the present. Another worthy mention is that social settings lead to valuable connections and breakthroughs this week and open doors to collaborations. You might find some creative partnerships or just general partnerships that benefit your growth through your social circle. A friend of a friend, or accepting an invitation for a social event, helps you deepen your social dynamics, and it prompts you to redefine boundaries, to take a more active role in how you interact with others and who those others are. And as you're doing all of this reflection on past actions, part of this is being compelled to reassess your spending habits. Financially, you might consider reorganizing your budget, reevaluating investments, cutting back somewhere on unnecessary expenditures, and this helps you better align with long-term goals financially. You might reconsider some purchases, you might sell off some items. And this is all part of the bigger picture adjustment, the subtle adjustment that's happening as a change in your image. A family related or work related dispute requires your input. You might clarify a misunderstanding and bring a balanced perspective to all parties involved. And as a result, you get given a challenging project because of your strength in bringing solutions to the table, turning this into a period of negotiation, because you need to make sure that you are adequately compensated or rewarded for the efforts that you bring. Outside of all that, this is the perfect week to engage in home improvement projects with the focus on making your living space more comfortable. But before you make any big decisions, make sure to take that 2-day wait. Picking a different paint color or moving something around might not feel so good if it's done on impulse. Holding back allows you to make more informed, stable choices regarding your home and family life. And to get more from this week's reading, listen to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. If you don't know what those are, use the calculator below to find out. This week for Pisces, you are drawn to private reflection and revisiting a past emotional wound or a subconscious fear that impacts your sense of security. You may feel the need to avoid unnecessary risks, avoiding anything that may jeopardize your emotional or financial well-being, and instead focus more on the behind the scenes things that you can do that will bring you slow but steady transformation. And the biggest point is acknowledging and addressing any hidden fears. Doing that now will help you build a stronger foundation for the future, because this is a time for finding financial clarity and for informed decision making in money matters. So you may notice some patterns emerging in your financial life are very much on replay that you recognize from the past, and it offers you like new insights. It offers you the ability to open up fresh opportunities. And if you've made previous mistakes in finances or even career, then now is the time to reassess and make some corrections. It's never too late to make corrections. It's also a great week for having effective conversations related to home, life, family matters, any discussions that lead to breakthroughs. These will allow you to expand your knowledge and find new strategies to manage your personal relationships. But mainly the focus is financial for you this week. Financial decisions made in haste lead to regrets. So take your time before making any big moves, 2 days minimum, and reflect on past choices that seem similar to this situation. Any past choices related to money or possessions, looking at those will help you understand the emotional impact that upcoming decisions could have on your sense of security. It helps to review your core values and look at what you need, what is necessary at the core of your existence. And this makes sure that your approach to money and also to love and material possessions aligns with your long-term goals. A healing conversation comes this week and allows you to release limiting beliefs as someone offers guidance to any struggles with financial or emotional issues. And as a result, your communication becomes more grounded and practical. So, any discussions with close family, with neighbors or peers become very, very matter of fact. You approach new knowledge with a steady, persistent mindset, whether it's about making decisions about finances, home life, or future plans. And taking your time makes you feel more confident in your ability to make the clearest, most grounded choice that prioritizes stability. And to get more from your reading this week, listen to the reading for your moon sign and your rising sign too. If you don't know what those are, use the calculator below to find out.